afternoon, class, and today we will be talking about the education equalization concept, also known as a formula. So, some background history. Before this formula, state granted a minimum level of funding, and the local school boards had unlimited access to property tax monies, although tax increases were subjected to voter approval. Many people thought this was not fair simply because of the fact that property taxes for communities that were well off usually gave schools better funding. And on the other hand, if your community didn't have good property taxes, schools didn't get enough funding. So this formula was established around the 70s and 80s. It was the main frame for determining funding to schools and districts. This formula basically funded every child at the same basic level. Funding increased if the district had children with special needs by applying the special weight formula. For some projects, local communities can vote to use their property taxes to directly support their schools, which basically says that if a project in a school is approved by the community is allowed to vote to give more money than necessary. For some projects, districts can assess a local property tax. The state aid monies is given to districts that can't raise enough taxes on their own. Money from facilities goes to growing and new districts. So basically, all students get the same amount of money for their education. Sort of, because all of these factors factor in, making it fair but not really. Hello again, class. In the prior video, you might have recalled that we talked about funding increasing if the district had children with special needs by applying a special weight formula. Well, this is me explaining what it is. Student weight count, which is basically variables that are weighed into this funding to funding a school. So basically, if you have two schools with roughly the same amount of students, but school A only has ELL students and school B has special needs students, students with physical disability, ELL, etc. School B has a potential to receive more funding money just because it has these kinds of students. You might ask why, and this is simply because of the fact that schools with students that require more needs and more supplies tend to be a little more costly, which basically explains why one school, even though it has roughly the same amount of students as another school, might get a little bit of more funding.
Hello class, we're going to be talking about funding formula, and the formula is money for students who attend school plus weighted count plus transportation plus soft capital equals the budget that school gets. And next is the budget. N plus O pays for days to days operation. 75% of the money is used for salaries and benefit. Students ADM weight plus added weight for students who receive ELL service. For transportation plus capital to pay for all the school supplies only 1 year. Unrestricted capital outlay, they pay for desk, calculator, whiteboard, about 225.76 per ADM, 69.68 per ADM. This money used for capital item.
Class, I'll be talking about overrides. Well, basically, overrides are voter approved, and they are also additional money for construction bonds. So With overrides, you can build any other building or whatever you want in school. And they are also funding for schools. Next will be teacher compensation. Teacher compensation is related to budget. Falls under M&O, which is maintenance plus operation, and there 75% of the money is used for teacher salaries and benefits. The wages yearly for high school are for less experience, which is $37,990 yearly. The average is $45,870 yearly, and for the more experience is $55,510 yearly. For the wages for middle school, for the less experienced are $35,470. The average is $41,450, and for the more experienced is $48,810.